This is kind of a tough video to make. We don't want to falsely accuse anyone. But the fact is that these have long been my suspicions. And I'm titling this The Triad of Evil in the State of Arizona. And so what I'm going to bring to your attention are three culprits involved in setting up the voter fraud in Arizona since the 2016 election and perhaps even before. So you need to understand that I don't make these allegations lightly. I believe them to be true. I do not in any way intend to slander somebody wrongly. I don't intend to wrongly accuse anybody of any kind of mischief. But in this case, these three people have taken down the United States of America. And if they are allowed to continue, they're going to destroy America. They will be instrumental. I know, it's far-fetched. They will be instrumental in the absolute nuking and destruction of America. And these three people are in power today. And they need to be investigated, held accountable. And the state legislator in Arizona is so corrupt that they went after their fellow legislator who brought to their attention the corruption of Governor Katie Hobbs. The likelihood that she's owned by the cartels. The likelihood that she gets paid off through some elaborate housing scheme. I don't understand the details of it. The woman was on television. She was explaining herself, but rather than open up an investigation against their governor, her fellow Republicans, turncoats, traitors, obviously are so corrupt they're bought off too. Yeah, the cartels are that powerful. They got that kind of money. They can buy off the entire state of Arizona legislature. I think that might be what happened, but I don't know. You need to know, though. You need to find out. It's your damn state legislature, not mine. So what is it that happened? Well, it all began in 2016. There was a very contentious race for the U.S. Senate. Two females, one of them a veteran, been to war, led missions as a fighter pilot. Didn't have a lot of sex appeal, to be honest with you. And this other effluent, publicly bisexual woman who, well, she had some sex appeal. And when she showed up on the Senate floor, I think somebody had to have a word with her about the way she was dressing because it was not considered, well, it was risque. It wasn't appropriate. And so they had to tell her about her dress so she wasn't such a cartoonish character in the Senate. You know, sexing it up too damn much. The Senate's got standards, you know. Yeah, right. This Senate needs to go to hell in a handbasket. We need to repeal the 17th Amendment. Why? Because it's anti-constitutional. The states who created our central government no longer have representation because of the direct election of the senators from the people. You see, the senators made a deal. They wanted to be professional politicians. They didn't want to have to turn over so much because as members of the Senate from their state legislatures, they could be fired in a heartbeat if they failed to vote the way the state government, whom they represented, by the way, wanted them to vote. So there would be no Mavericks. There'd be no McCains. There'd be no Lindsays. There'd be no Chuck E. Cheese Schumers. There wouldn't be some of those ugly, ugly people who are doing their best to breed contempt and get us to fight one another. The Senate is supposed to be a slow body of deliberation, a final check, and the balance of things. And they destroyed that by turning the senators into super congressmen. They're not supposed to represent the people. They're not supposed to have their hands on the purse strings. They're supposed to be representing the state governments who were the participants and the signers of the Declaration of Independence and the signers of our Constitution. And so without representation for the states that authorize the central government, our republic, we have no freaking republic. Do you get that? There's no republic until you get rid of the 17th Amendment. There's more to it than that, but that's a good start. So 2016, you had these women, and you had a guy, Adrian Fontes, I think is his name. He was in charge of elections for Maricopa County that year. And he set up all kinds of, I think he set up the drop-off ballot boxes. I think he set up absentee voting. And he had to count and recount the ballots in the 2016 election. He kept having to recount and delaying the final report, the final tally of the ballots. Why? Because he wanted his people, his fellow communists, you call them Democrats, rats is what they are. They're destroying America. He had to get his woman elected to the Senate and his woman elected to the position of Secretary of State and his woman elected as head of education. Kathy Hoffman, that gawky-looking, tall-ass woman who brought the sexual perversions to your children in Arizona. Yeah. She's the one that brought in the sex-teaching comic books for the children in grade school. I think kindergarten, too. Yeah, she was in charge of twisting your children up and making sure that they got a liberal education. Illiberal is what it was. Took a bit to get rid of her. But you didn't get rid of Hobbes, did you? Nope. The ship floats to the top. Certainly does. In this case, you got a big turd in the governor's office. And it appears from the legislature, who tried to point it out to the fellow legislators, that she's owned by the damn cartels. Now, don't hold me to it. She needs to have a fair and proper investigation. Maybe even charged with her crimes and tried. And then sentenced. And since it's high treason, taking down the United States of America, destroying the nation, what should the penalty be for that? What did they do with traitors back then? What did they do? What did they do? I'll donate the rope. Or we can go down to the museum in Florence, and I'm sure we could find some real high-quality, old-fashioned rope that they used back then. This governor elected herself. And because she's still in office, and Adrian Fontes is now counting the vote, it's just a matter of time before she's convicted of her crimes. She's pulled out of the governor's office, and Adrian Fontes, the big turd who started all this voter fraud in Maricopa County and in the state of Arizona, he's going to be governor. That's right, your next governor, Adrian Fontes, the guy who had to recount the ballots 6 freaking weeks till they came out the way he wanted it to come out. What was that? Doesn't matter how people vote. What matters is who's counting the vote. Yeah. and he's been moving up in power. He's going to be governor next. Yeah, Arizona, you asked for it. As far as I'm concerned, it couldn't happen to a better people. I mean, your legislators are obviously bought off, because when the legislature tells you the truth, that there's something fishy going on, instead of investigating that crime, well, it's obvious to me that the cartels paid off the rest of the state legislators in Arizona. Arizona's so corrupt, I don't know how many millions of dollars go from the Department of Corrections to the governor's office and everybody else's hands, for that matter, every year. Millions. Arizona's an entity unto itself. The state legislators don't have any control over it. And they've been doing the same recycling fraud for decades. How do you think that governor years ago got the $1 million to run against Bill Clinton for president? Didn't make it. He got appointed to a cushy job, but Bill was able to get $10 million out of the Mena, Arkansas cocaine stuff, his cut on that. So he was able to beat out Governor, what's his name for Arizona, the governor who, him and his son used to take the helicopter and fly down to Mexico on dope runs, because they were out pot there on what's at the floor they're up on in the governor's office in Arizona. I don't know what it is. That's your people's governor. That's your office. I don't give a damn about it down there, except this. Arizona destroyed my nation. The baby state, 1812, the last state on the continent to cease being a territory in name only. If you look at Arizona, if you want to understand Arizona, you need to regard it as a damn territory. That's all it is. And that prison that you got down there in Florence, that's just a Yuma territorial prison. Pretty crude. Harshest prison system out of the Deep South. Got a hell of a reputation. Man, they imprison their staff, or they set them up for false allegations and crimes all the damn time. Yeah, there's some stories out of that place. There's something about a helicopter, something about a fellow who was a goddamn psychologist. Ooh, don't cuss, John, don't cuss. Forgive me. It's not his real name, it's Yahweh. That's my saving grace. I didn't know his real name back then when I was cussing like that, so I slip up. I thank you for your prayers for me, that you regular watchers here who pray that my language will get cleaned up. But I'm a little upset because these people have destroyed my nation. And they're going to get us nuked, because they're going to keep this jackass in office, or put the other jackass in office. I don't like either one of them. Remember, the shit floats to the top. These guys are turds. They all represent, well, they aren't America firsters. Not even your chump Trump. He's an Israeli firster. They got a coin minted up with his face on it, like he's Darius the Great, or one of those guys that saved ancient Israel. Trump Heights, named after him, because Trump stole the Golan Heights from Syria and gave it to Israel. That's the problem. This criminality is so rampant. They're going to get carried away and they're going to go too far. That's what they always do. It's like Gaza. It's a genocide. And America is going to fund that shit? It's a genocide. And America's busy funding it because Israel, the Jews are the chosen people. Are you sure they're the Jews? Have you read Revelations 2:9 and Revelations 3:9? Go look it up. Even the Bible warns us that those aren't Jews that are in there. For the most part, don't get me wrong, there's actually a residue in there, and Jerusalem's going to be attacked, and there's going to be a residue left when Yahweh steps in and fights like he did for Israel of old. Yeah, that's coming. I firmly believe it. But in the meantime, let's try to see if we can rescue America. So I think Arizona needs to open up. And you also have that lying ass attorney. I want to fake that I can't remember his name, but who the hell can forget a name like Bill fucking Gates, man? The gates of hell. You want to see a guy lie? Go look at the old interviews of that attorney. I think he's supervisor or something, or he's on the supervisory board for Maricopa County elections. And he's obviously a rhino at best, and he's a traitor at worst. I mean, he actually oversaw the theft of the election where they put the wrong paper. They sabotaged the electoral process. He's in charge of the sabotage. As far as I can tell, he should be investigated for possible crimes. Yeah, Bill Gates. Not that Bill Gates, the one in Maricopa County, the attorney, the lying jackass. Listen to that man. He's so full of himself. You want to listen to the pure narcissism? He thinks he's getting away with something and people can't tell. He's lying. So that's your trinity of evil, your triad of evil in Arizona. Your governor, she's the head of it. And when they take her out of office finally, because everybody knows that she stole the election, according to the laws, Adrian Fontes is your governor next. And he's worse. And then you're always going to have that attorney, high-paid job as a supervisor for the Maricopa County. He's got to make sure those elections go a particular way. It makes me wonder whose pocket he's in. Cartels as well, or Georgie Soros, or G. Swartz, whatever the hell his name is. The guy that at the favorite time of his life, the happiest time of his life when he worked for the Nazis, confiscating the property of his fellow Jews. What kind of Jew is that? I mean, he was happiest going after their property and taking it from them. Might he not be one of those that are referred to in Revelations in those two verses I cited previously, 2:9 and 3:9? Folks, the truth is in the Bible. If you read it, you won't be deceived so easily. You won't be able to be lied to so much. I mean, you might wake up, smell the coffee, and stop this bullshit before they nuke us. That's in the Bible too. That's in Zechariah chapter 5. And it's throughout there where Yahweh says, you are to me as Sodom and Gomorrah and her neighbors. Yahweh nuked their asses. You think I'm kidding? We found the tell. We found the mound for Sodom. And they went and excavated it all the way down. And when they got to the destructive layer, they wrote all of the injuries that they saw, and that all the bodies were oriented out from a central blast zone. And the little bones were broken, and they notated all of it like a crime scene. They did a forensic analysis of it. And they found a crystal there in the ruins, if you will, in that level. They wanted to know, what the hell is this stone? What's this rock about? So they hauled that crystal to Sandia Laboratories next to Arizona, in New Mexico, and asked those people, the scientists there, what the hell is this? And of course, the Sandia Lab scientists said, where the fuck did you get this? Did that? Why? Because that crystal, and I can't remember the name of it, is only found at nuclear blast sites. So clearly Yahweh wasn't screwing around when he took up Sodom and Gomorrah and her neighbors. Hellfire and brimstone were nuclear weapons. And in case you're wondering, in Zechariah chapter 5, they refer to two women in a basket which is not translated quite right. It really should be translated the alternative, lesser known definition, which is sacrificial fire. That's what's in that damn basket with a lead lid on it. Wow, lead? Was Zechariah a nuclear physicist? Did he work on atom bombs back then? How did the prophet know? Zechariah is a real short chapter. Shouldn't even take you 5 minutes to read it. The triad of evil in Arizona will destroy America if they are allowed to be in office during this next selection process. What? You think there's going to be an election? There's never an election. There's always a selection. That's what you're going to get at best, but this time they may not even go through that. They may just decide, we're going to declare Biden the wartime president. We're going to keep his ass in office. We aren't even going to bother to count the vote. Doesn't matter anyway. He's our man. We're going to be counting the vote. He's going to be in there no matter what. Don't get me wrong. I don't care that much for Trump. He stole the Golan Heights. He stole from Syria, a real ally of ours, and gave it to Israel. Is Israel really an ally? Is that really a chosen people? I mean, I'm waiting for them to go into the West Bank. You know, that larger landmass on the east side of their nation, which is on the west side of the Jordan, hence it's called the West Bank. I've been waiting them for to go in there and start the genocide over there. They're genociding the hell out of the 2 million over there in Gaza. And America stands by and lets that happen. Then the Houthi are kicking America's ass. That little group, I don't even know where the hell Houtheria or whatever it is, where it is on the map, on the earth. I mean, but all I know is that those people are right. And what do they want? They want the genocide in Gaza to stop. America's being taken down. Why? Because America is Israel's bitch. That's right. And you think those are the chosen people? Oh yeah, they're chosen all right. They come from Khazaria. That's the Khazarian mafia. It's pretty much in the Bible. They worshipped a dude called Molech. They like to pass their children through the fire. They did horrible stuff. It's in the Bible. All that's evil's in the Bible. We're told not to study it, not to major in it. Yahweh doesn't want us doing it. But if you want to see an example of it, go look up Soldiers Field. I think it was a July 3rd celebration in Soldiers Field in Chicago. The World's Fair, where they started it with some beam of light from Alpha Centauri or someplace, and they used it to light up the facilities, and then they had more than 150,000 people attend the celebration of the worship of Molech and the sacrifice of a child. And some people say it wasn't a mock sacrifice. Go look at that. Getty's got the images on the internet. It was so popular, it went over so good that I think it was 3 or 4 days later, they did it again. And that time, only 55,000 participated instead of over 150,000 like the first time. That long robe the priest has, and what's Malek or Molech or Baal? What's he look like? Or Apis? The bull, the cow, that god that was in Egypt and now runs rampage on Wall Street. It's where you get your bull market from. Ain't no bullshit. That's why they called you Goyim, because they own your asses. They do this weird stuff with your birth certificate and call it a birth, B-E-R-T-H, and put you under maritime law, admiralty law, so you aren't under constitutional law. and your bar association rules over you in the place of the Regency. Bar, British Accreditation Regency. You want your nation back? You want constitutional rule? Then you need to grab a hold of the original 13th Amendment, which is the law of the land, and declare it the law of the land once again. And when those attorneys scream, we didn't know. We can all have a good laugh. You didn't know, you jackasses. What have you been telling us for a year and setting us centuries, 2 centuries at least, and setting us up for? All kinds of failure because we didn't know the law, because you make it so obtuse and so hard? You've been hurting the rest of us for more than 2 centuries? Even when George Washington surrendered, the general told him what was coming. Is that Cornwallis that told him 200 years from now you'll be worshiping the religion of the what? Are you sure they're the... Because I don't think that's what they are. I think there's been a big deception. Just like the deception of these so-called elections. Yep. You need to get rid of that triad of evil in Arizona before this next election. You can't allow them to stay in office anymore. You need to set an example for the rest of the nation. The baby state. My God, what a baby. It's just a goddamn territory. No law in Arizona. Undue process. Corrupt as hell. Legislators even turned their backs on a fellow legislator that brought the crimes to their attention. The triad of evil in Arizona. May Yahweh bless the state of Arizona. May you stop the criminality down there before you take down you in the soft underbelly of our nation down there, take down the rest of the country. Because you can't get it together and enforce the law and just demonstrate common sense.